Hello learners, in this lecture we will see what all are the different types of cement that is available in the market. So the next point of discussion what we have is a low heat cement. So the moment I say low heat cement, we need to understand the concept behind that. So who is responsible for the low heat cement? That is dry calcium silicate, right? That is C2S. If I try to write it here, right, you need to understand in this way that is C2S content is responsible for low heat cement. And who is giving us high strength? That is the early strength. C3S content is going to give us the early strength, right? So what we need to do is a very simple. This time what we can do, will reduce the content of the tricalcium silicate, because this guy is only the person who is giving us the early strength, no? So I don't want that. So for this person, that is C3S content, I'll reduce, and C2S content I'm going to increase, right? So in this way I can make you, in this way I can prepare a low heat cement, right? So this basic understanding we need to have, so that we can try to understand. Right now we'll try to go forward. So this cement is obtained by reducing the proportion of tricalcium aluminate, that is approximately 5%, and tricalcium silicate approximately 40%, and increasing the proportion of C2S content. So dicalcium silicate we are going to increase approximately up to 35%. The second point is that this cement develops lower rate of gain of strength, and obviously it has to, because what we have done, we have reduced the tricalcium silicate, right? And we know that tricalcium silicate is that person who will have high heat of hydration. So we have reduced this content, so the strength gain is going to come down. Yeah. Now again the same question, how much low heat it's going to happen, right? So after 28 days, heat of hydration of low heat cement will be approximately 75 calorie per gram, and OPC and that of OPC cement will be 100 calorie per gram. If you're using a OPC cement, the heat of hydration you're going to get at the end of 28 days is 100 calorie per gram, whereas your low heat cement is giving you 75 calorie per gram. So that is okay. Now what, now comes the advantages of it. What all advantages we are going to get by using low heat cement? So first is less shrinkage cracks. Why less shrinkage cracks is going to happen? Because the heat of hydration is less, and if the heat of hydration is less, then what will happen, the water what we have in the cement, that evaporation, or that is not going to happen. If fast evaporation of water is not going to happen, then voids will not be there. So as a result of that, the cracks won't appear. So that is why we are going to get the less shrinkage cracks. What is the second point we have? The second point, less chemical and water penetration. Since we don't have any cracks, so what will happen, we will have a good density of that cement. So there won't be any cracks. As a result of that, there won't be any water penetrating through that, and also there is no chemical attack to that. So less chemical and water penetration. Third is less sulfate attack, obviously, because what we have done, we have reduced the content of tricalcium silicate and tricalcium aluminate. And if you remember, the sulfate attack was happening how? Because when the sulfate, I'll write it here, SO3 sulfate, when it was reacting with tricalcium aluminate, right? So it is to give us that sulfate attack compound, right? Sulfo alumino compounds. So that is why what we had done, we had to reduce the sulfate content, right? So but this was for internal, but externally sometimes external sulfate attack also will happen. In that case, what we need to do, we had to reduce the content of this tricalcium aluminate. And in low heat cement, what we are doing, we're actually putting the, where is that, tricalcium silicate approximately 5%, right? We are reducing that. So if you're reducing this, what will happen, the chances of sulfate attack is also less, right? So the less sulfate attack is going to happen. Next, what else point we have? The next is durability will be more, obviously, because when all the above three points will be satisfied, there is no shrinkage cracks, no water penetration, no sulfate attack and all, the durability obviously is going to be more. Next is where we are going to use this low heat cement. So this low heat cement we are used in mass concreting. Like let us say you have a raft foundation, a huge foundation you want to do, or let us say water retaining structures, or in the storage tank, in the dams and bridges. Because in dam and bridges you require huge amount of cement, right? Huge amount of concrete is required. So that is called as mass concreting. So in that case, we try to make use of a low heat cement. Now, why we have to use low heat cement only in dams and all? We'll try to see the reason for that. Because when you construct a dam and all, let me do it here. Let me, when if you're constructing a dam and all, no, how the dam looks, yeah. If you're constructing a dam and all, huge amount of concrete is required, right? I'll put concrete in this. Huge amount of concrete is required. So huge amount of concrete is required. So what will happen, here the top portion will be here concrete will be there, here also concrete will be there, due to the difference in the temperature, because this is somewhere top to the surface, right? This cement what we have in this portion, it is at the surface, whereas this cement has gone inside, right? So there will be a temperature difference. I'll write it in this way, temperature difference, okay, TD, temperature difference. So due to this temperature difference, what is going to happen? Thermal cracks are going to happen. So I don't, if cracks are going to happen, what will happen? This is a dam, right? A dam has to store the water, and if there is a crack, then there will be seepage through that. So I don't want that to happen. I don't want the seepage to happen, especially in the dams, the bridges, and in the storage tanks. I don't want the cracks to happen. So that is why we try to make use of the low heat cement. So in low heat cement, what will happen? The heat of hydration is less, no? So there won't be a difference in the temperature. So if there is no difference in the temperature, what will not happen? Thermal cracks are not going to happen. So that is why we go make use of a low heat cement. And what is the next point we have? That is no crack should be developed, because heat of hydration is proportional to per gram, right? Heat of hydration what we have, it is proportional to per gram. So what do you mean by per gram? That is per gram, it depends. Now you have a huge amount of dam to be constructed. So in that case, the amount of cement is more, no? If the amount of cement is more, then what will happen? Heat of hydration will be less. So that is why we make use of a low heat cement. Yeah. So that is what is written, thermal stresses in the concrete. Yeah. So next point of discussion, that is the next cement what we have is Portland pozzolana cement. So if you remember, before we had discussed about pozzolana, right? What is pozzolana, how it's going to act. So we'll try to see that once again, right? So if you remember, this is how a pozzolana is, right? Because a pozzolana alone cannot do anything, right? But when it tries to, when you add pozzolana along with the cement, what is going to happen? It will have a pozzolanic action, and it will start behave like a binder. It's something like, when you are alone, no, you won't do anything. Let me do it in this way. Let us say this is okay. When we are alone, we don't do anything. But when we try to meet with our friends, we do a lot of fun and all, right? Right, so we start to pull each other. In the same way, the pozzolana is something like this. If it is alone, it cannot do anything. But when it tries to what you call mix with the cement, it starts to show its properties, and it starts to act like a binder, right? So with this understanding, we'll try to see what is Portland pozzolana cement. Yeah, and what are these pozzolanas? This fly ash, GGBS, then silica fume, then what we have, metakaolin, all these are the pozzolanas. So all these are the different waste product that is obtained from the industry. Like fly ash is obtained from the coal industry, GGBS is obtained from the steel industry, and right. So based on that, we try to make use of them, and based on this, we try to prepare a cement, and that is called as Portland pozzolana cement, right? Yeah, so this is how a Portland pozzolana cement looks. You can see it is written here, PPC, that is Portland pozzolana cement. Yeah. So this cement is obtained by intergrinding the OPC clinkers along with the pozzolana at the time of grinding. We have seen that, right? During the manufacturing of the cement, I told you to add gypsum, and along with the gypsum, I told you you can add even pozzolana. So these pozzolanas are added at that time, and then it becomes a Portland pozzolana cement. So the percentage of pozzolana can be up to 35% according to the latest government rules. So now even government is motivating us, or even government is demanding us to make use of this pozzolana. Now why government is telling us to use this pozzolana, we'll try to see that. And we also know that if we try to use pozzolana, whatever that calcium hydroxide we have, no, so it will react with calcium hydroxide, and it will again try to form a CSA gel, right? So it will help us in a binding action. So as a engineers, for us it is beneficial, but from government point of view, we'll try to see why government is telling us to make use of this pozzolana, right? Yeah. So but if you're using a pozzolana cement, that is a Portland pozzolana cement, the ultimate strength of the cement will remain same. Now coming to the advantages, first, it is eco-friendly. So eco-friendly in two way, right? So first is, what will happen if you make use of pozzolana, if you make use of pozzolana, what will happen? The cement consumption will come down, right? If the cement consumption will come down, what will happen? During the manufacture of cement, what is going to happen? Carbon dioxide will be released. So what will happen? The amount of carbon dioxide to be released will be less. So we are making our environment friendly, eco-friendly. The second is that, what are these pozzolanas? So these pozzolanas are fly ash, right? Then it is GGBS, then what I told, then it is silica fume, and so on. So all these are the waste product. So this waste product, what we have, no, that, let me write it in this way. Yeah, give me a minute. Yeah. So this GGBS, then fly ash, all these things, no, they are very fine in nature. They are fine in nature. Okay, they are actually fine in nature. So they are the byproducts of all the different industry. So even the factory which is manufacturing all these things, no, they're actually not manufacturing. They're manufacturing um, uh, iron and uh, in the coal industry they do their work, but this is a byproduct of that. So if this is a byproduct of that, they're very fine in nature. So the dumping of this byproducts is difficult. Byproducts, yeah, because it requires huge amount of space for this fly ash GGBS to be dumped. That is the first problem they have. Second is that let us say you got enough space to dump. Since they are very fine in nature, no, they come in what you call, no, in environment. They come in environment. Since they're very fine in nature, there is chances of people swallowing that. Since they're very fine, again there is a health problem and all. So from government point of view, I want this particular fly ash GGBS to be consumed. So who is going to consume? So we in the cement industry, we try to consume this. So that is why it is eco-friendly. From one is that it is giving us less amount of cement. Second, if you don't try to use this, no, the dumping is very difficult. And even if you find a place to dump, again due to movement of air and all, there's a chances of this particular fly ash GGBS coming in the environment. Again, it will try to create a health problems. So I don't want that to happen. So from government point of view, they have made it mandatory now to make use of this pozzolana into the cement. Yeah, yeah. So with this understanding, again we'll try to see. Again, it is economical, obviously, since you're reducing the cement content and you're adding a pozzolana. And this fly ash and GGBS, they're very what you call cheap in rate. The cement is, let us say, 7 or 8 rupees per kg, whereas fly ash and GGBS you get 3 or 4 rupees per kg. Sometimes even you get it for free. But now since the demand has increased, you don't get it for free. They've kept a minimum price of, like, let's say, 2, 3 or 4 rupees per kg. Next is less heat of hydration, because the cement consumption is less. So if the cement consumption is less, obviously there is a less heat of hydration. Next is shrinkage cracks will be less. There won't be shrinkage cracks in this. Next is better pore resistance and refinement, because this fly ash GGBS, they are very fine in nature, right? Since they are very fine in nature, whatever voids you have in the concrete, those will be filled by these people. That is a fly ash GGBS. So what will happen? There is a better refinement, and as a result of that, there is no pore, and as a result of that, there is a better pore resistance. I mean, there is no voids and all. Those voids will be filled by this particular fine materials. Less pores, so as a result of that, less permeability is going to happen. The water will not penetrate to that and all. Yeah. Next is better resistance against water penetration and chemical penetration. Obviously, if there is less permeability, then there will be better resistance against the water penetration and chemical penetration. Next point is better sulfate resistance. Why better sulfate resistance? Because that calcium hydroxide, which was unreacted, which was there, which was creating a problem, right? So that will react with pozzolana and CSH gel will be formed. So as a result of that, the sulfate attack will not happen, right? Yeah. And next, now all right now what we have seen, all these are the advantages. Now there is one small disadvantage of this Portland pozzolana, which you already seen in the discussion of pozzolana. That is slow rate of gain of strength. The rate of gain of strength what you have, no, that is a little less. Like ultimate strength will be same that you're going to achieve, but rate of initial, let us say, 3-4 days strength what you are getting by using Portland pozzolana cement, that will be less in comparison to OPC. Now the question is that how much less? How much less is whatever 7 days strength you're going to achieve from ordinary Portland cement, no, that same strength you're going to achieve with the help of PP cement in 3 days. That means there's a 3 days difference. Whatever let us say OPC is going to gain some, 40 Newton per mm square strength by the end of 7 days. But that same 40 Newton per mm square strength will be achieved by PPC cement by the end of 10 days, right? So this is a slow rate of gain of strength. But ultimate strength, let us say you want to achieve 53 Newton per mm square, that both will achieve 53 only. Okay, that ultimate strength I've written it here. Ultimate strength of cement will be same. Only the rate of gain, initial rate of gain of strength will change. I mean, it will slow down in PPC cement. Yeah, right? So this is how a PPC looks. Yeah. So next cement what we have is Portland slag cement. So this Portland slag cement is also called as blast furnace cement. So how it is manufactured? It's very simple. You have to take a OPC clinker, and again in the OPC clinker you have to add the pozzolana, and along with the pozzolana you have to add hard burnt gypsum. And if you try to add all three things, you get a Portland slag cement. So again, but here the pozzolana what you're using, that is slag. We make use of a slag, and that slag is called as GGBS. That is GGBS stand for ground granulated blast furnace slag. And again, this is a byproduct from the steel industry. This GGBS what we get, it is a byproduct of the steel industry. So that you have to try to add into this. So then it becomes my Portland slag cement. But here there is no limit to pozzolana. But in the previous case, what happened? The government had limited the use of pozzolana up to 35%. But here there is no limit to pozzolana. Unlike the PPC, you can add more than 35% also. Now coming to the advantages of this, whatever advantages we had in PPC cement, no, that is better pore resistance, less sulfate attack and all the same advantages we get in Portland slag cement. Along with that, we'll have a better sulfate resistance due to less C3S content, right? Yeah. And next, very less heat of hydration, and also the chances of cracking is very less. Next is, but due to more usage of the slag, since we're using more slag here, the strength may compromise slightly, right? As we saw, if you try to make use of pozzolana, what will happen? The strength gain will be little less. So here, since we're adding more than 35 or 40%, obviously here again the strength will again come down. But we use the cement wherever strength is not the main criteria, but other things are main criteria. Like what do you mean by this? Let us say I don't require much strength. Okay, I require some 33 Newton per mm square strength somewhere. That is okay. But along with that, I need to make sure that it is it has a better sulfate resistance, right? And there is less heat of hydration and all. So in that case, what will happen? We'll make use of this Portland slag cement. So that is a that is a meaning of this. We use this cement wherever strength is not a main criteria, but for us it should have better sulfate resistance and all. Then we try to make use of this Portland slag cement. Yeah. So the next point of discussion what we have, the next cement is the is called as super sulfate cement. So this super sulfate cement is an example of Portland slag cement. So here what we try to do, we make use of OPC clinker. Along with that, we add GGBS and we add hard burn gypsum. How much GGBS you add? Or around 80 to 85% you try to add GGBS in this, and only around 5% you add OPC clinker, and 5 to 10% of hard burn gypsum. So in this case, the tricalcium aluminate should not be greater than 3.5%. The tricalcium aluminate what we had, in this case it should not be more than 3.5%. So this will have a very high resistance against the sulfate attack due to less amount of tricalcium aluminate. So this cement is used where the chances of sulfate attack is more, right? Especially in the underground works and all. Yeah, in the underground works and all, where the chances of sulfate attack is more, there we try to make use of this super sulfated cement. So you can see it here, sulfate resisting Portland cement. So we try to make use of this super sulfate cement. Yeah. And the another cement what we have is a colored cement. So in this we have different color cement, like white cement, we have green cement and blue cement. So how the white cement is made? We know that iron oxide is responsible for the color, right? So to make the white cement, the proportion of Fe2O3, that is iron oxide, will be reduced. And here the burning, that is the while the manufacturing of the cement, the burning what we are going to do, no, that we are going to make use of oil fuel instead of coal burning. Why we do in this way? Because if you make use of a coal burning, due to the gases or due to that vapor of coal which is black in color, there may be a chances of that black color sticking to this particular clinker. So I don't want that to happen. So that is why we make use of oil fuel. So in the oil fuel what will happen, you won't get that black what you call fumes, black fumes, like you get in the coal burning. So that is why we make use of oil fuel here instead of coal burning. And if you want to prepare a green cement, then this is prepared by using chromium. Then you add a certain percentage of chromium during the manufacturing, so you get a green cement. Similarly, if you want a blue cement, then you have to try to add cobalt into that at certain percentage, then you get a blue cement. You can see it here. In this way, whatever color of cement is required, no, based on that we try to create it. So this interlocking and all. So here you can see the color, right? Different colors you are going to get. And here you can see cement color, it's written here. So in this way we try to make use of colored cement. Usually white cement we try to use wherever it is required. Green cement, blue cement, if it is required, you can try to make use of them. Yeah. So in the next lecture, we'll try to see a few other another 3 or 4 different types of cement, and we'll try to understand them. So we'll see you back in the next lecture. Thank you.